start a little rising. You don't have to love me, you don't have to like me. Got enough love in myself, in my psyche. You should have the same in your brain nightly. If you wanna taste it, you can fucking try me. If you wanna hate, you know where to find me. And if you're going hate this, you can fucking bite me. I'll be cruising in my lane fast, call it high speed. I've been working hard, yeah, I've been working nightly. If you think you'll win, nah, likely. I be taking shots, yeah, cold-blooded, icy. Watching numbers grow is what I call sightseeing. In the front row, run it up when they hype me. The following grows, they know how to ignite me. Call me CEO, I've been running right, see. And I ain't playing games, I create my own lane. Making pleasure out of pain, turning losses into...
What is up, Steeler Nation? Good morning. Happy Saturday. I'm Daniel J., your host. This is Saturday morning Steelers Sesh, where it's your therapy session when we talk about Steelers, do a Q&A, and preview the upcoming game. With that being said, good morning. The Steelers are playing the New England Patriots tomorrow at 1 o'clock. It is the home opener. Excited about this game. It's a little bit of a redemption game for the offense. I anticipate this being a game. It's going to be a close battle game. But before we start the podcast, let me know if you guys can hear me okay. Hit the like button if I sound all right. And got Jerry Devil in the live chat already. Good seeing you. Good morning. Also, guys, we got a couple announcements real quick. Just kind of want to remind everybody that we're giving away a couple of tickets to a game this year, and we'll be going over the details a little bit later on in the podcast or in the show. But just hype it up a little bit, so to speak. We're giving away 2 tickets to the Steelers versus Vegas Raiders game. It's they're going to be retiring Franco Harris's jersey, so all you got to do is be a subscriber, and you get entered into the contest, and we'll go over all those things here in a little bit. Let's see. Yo, what's going on, EDS? What's up, Sean Downey? Good morning. Hope everybody's excited. The game's going to be big. And, it's the Pittsburgh Steelers have an opportunity, in my opinion, right now to jump up in the standings. These first 4 games, they're AFC opponents. 2 of them are AFC North opponents that we're going to catch, in my opinion, at the right time. And if the Pittsburgh Steelers can do what they're supposed to do in these first 4 games, which they already took care of Cincinnati in a overtime thriller that seemed like more than one game or appeared to be like a 3-game type of deal, at least for me. Now you have the New England Patriots and then a short week going towards Cleveland, and then another home game against the Jets, who, are a little bit disoriented right now. They don't have their starting quarterback. Joe Flacco's in there, and they look a little bit rough. And so, I think this is a great opportunity for the Steelers to jump, 2-0 in the division, 4-0 in the conference, and 4-0 in the standing. And, in order to do that, they have to take care of business tomorrow. I'm sorry. That starts off with the New England Patriots. And some of the bigger obstacles, in my opinion, are going to be offensively for the Pittsburgh Steelers. That is the defense for the New England Patriots. Under Bill Belichick, have been a superb defense. They're a defense that you're going to have to come very well prepared for and not make mistakes. You take what the defense gives you, and they're going to try to confuse Mitch Trubisky. And one of the things that worries me about this game is that when it comes to complex defenses and Mitch Trubisky struggles in diagnosing and dissecting those defenses. And so this is going to be a big game for Mitch. The home crowd's going to be chanting, in my opinion, very early, even before kickoff for Kenny Pickett. And I think the pressure is going to be extremely high and up there for Mitch Trubisky for him to perform. I feel that he has the opportunity to, there's been some statements from Coach Mike Tomlin here recently talking about not wanting to throw the ball over the middle of the field or deep because, it increases the likelihood of turnovers, and that in the couple of matchups last season against the Cincinnati Bengals, the reasons why they got out of control were because of turnovers. Now, I understand that, but that's kind of living in your fears, don't you think? I didn't really like the fact that the Steelers took their foot off the pedal, and it basically, with Coach T, what he's saying there is, confirming that it's basically taking the foot off the pedal, being comfortable with a 17-3 lead at a certain point in the game, and allowing the Bengals to come back. And honestly, if it weren't for a long snapper, they probably should have won that game. And so, with that said, things worked out for the Steelers' favor. They're 1-0. That game should have been handled in regulation, in my opinion, but it didn't. Now, it cost us. TJ Watt's going to be out for the next 6 weeks with a pec injury. He, fortunately, and it could have been worse. It could have been a season ender. And so I anticipate seeing TJ Watt come back after the bye. If the Steelers take care of business the way they're supposed to in these 4 games, they won't need to rush him. And so as long as the Steelers can do that, I think the Steelers will be all right. But back to this game, the key factor for this is going to be Bill Belichick designing and scheming a defense against Mitch Trubisky. And that's concerning because, in preseason, when I looked at the film and the tape, when defenses rolled their coverage or hid what they were doing or masked it pre-snap, even though the change was pretty obvious at the snap, Mitch Trubisky struggled to read that, and he just doesn't look comfortable in the pocket. He left in this most recent game, he had a couple passes down the field. I'm not going to say the receivers were giving him wide open throws or wide open lanes or whatnot, but at the same token, he left some clean pockets. He was throwing off his back foot, throwing across his body. He just didn't look very comfortable. It seemed like he doesn't trust this offensive line, and I understand why. This past preseason, the offensive line played extremely poor. They're also going up against the Steelers defense in practice. Now, here recently, it's probably been more so going up against twos. However, up until preparing for the Cincinnati Bengals game, the Steelers offense has been going up against the ones. And I'm sure that the defensive line for the Pittsburgh Steelers has been bullying the offensive line of the offense. And so, I get it. I understand why there might be that, uneasiness. However, you can't allow that to show. You can't leave clean pockets in the manner that he did. And then it affected his accuracy. He had throws that were all over the place. And in my opinion, it's just, being on the road is one thing. Now he's coming home where behind him is the first round pick, the first quarterback selected in the draft, the hometown kid, or most recently played in Pitt, won an ACC championship for Pitt, Kenny Pickett. And, in my opinion, it's a lot more pressure for him to perform this week, versus opening it up last week and allowing him to make some plays down the field. Right now, the Steelers are 2-point underdogs against the New England Patriots, and it's not because of the Steelers' defense. It's because of the Steelers' offense. I don't think, and the Steelers have Najee Harris should be coming back. He should be playing. You have the wide receivers. If the offensive line was a question mark, but last game, in my opinion, I thought they, like I mentioned before, I thought that they had turned a corner. In the last preseason game, I thought they were doing some things better. And in doing so, I told everybody, I was like, I think they're going to be taking some steps. Now, sure, there's going to be some growing pains and whatnot. And I thought that this offensive line probably would have worked better first at the run. But, they've probably been harping the pass and the pass protection so much that it's showing improvement. They gave Mitch Trubisky time to throw. They gave him a clean pocket quite a bit of the time. In fact, he was pressured a handful of times, but led to no sacks. Joe Burrow was pressured, hurried, sacked, hit multiple times. And throughout that game, in my opinion, his confidence and his pocket awareness or presence, it just seemed more confident and more of that, what you want in a starting quarterback, even though he threw so many interceptions and even though he was sacked so many times. And now going into Pittsburgh, the pressure is going to be big. I mean, the pressure is going to be huge. I think the Steelers faithful is going to be yelling for black and gold. I mean, for Kenny Pickett often and early, and especially if he struggles. I think it's going to be worse than being on the road. But, the Steelers have an opportunity. I think if they're able to exploit the middle of the field, they'll be able to have some success against this team. The New England Patriots have some injuries in some key places in the middle of the defense. They have a guy that, in my opinion, would be somewhat similar to what the Steelers want to do with KZ, safety, defensive back player that can move up and down on the line, up into the box and behind and cover. And that guy is Adrian Phillips. He went down last week against the Dolphins with I think it was like a rib injury. And they also have Juwan Bentley, who's been dealing with a toe. He's their middle linebacker. The Steelers, if they can get physical and use Gentry and use Pat Freiermuth in the middle of the field, I think they can exploit this matchup right here. And they got a good opportunity to do some damage, especially since, the Steelers. But here's the thing. The Steelers haven't shown that they're going to attack the middle of the field. I think the New England Patriots are going to be prepared for the Steelers not to attack it. And so if they do, they're going to prepare for the Steelers, as far as what they've shown to do in the last game and what they've done for the last couple of years. It's kind of become their identity of throwing short and outside and, have an extension of the run with those short to intermediate passing routes. And so there's hardly any passes going over the middle of the field. There wasn't any under Ben last week with Mitch. It was very few and far in between. And so there could be a chance that might be left open. And if so, the Steelers might be able to exploit that, especially with Pat Freiermuth. I think he may have a big game this upcoming game. And if the Steelers can get it rolling, I think the Steelers defense is going to be harassing Mac Jones all day. The Patriots offense, although that it did struggle, they did move the ball down the field a little bit against the Miami Dolphins. And so I'm not expecting them to be as anemic as the Steelers offense was, but I do expect the Pittsburgh Steelers defense to overcome this. I'm looking forward to it. I think that the Steelers win this game, but I think that the game is going to be a lot closer than what it probably should be. Just like the last game, to be honest with you, I think the Steelers win somewhere around 16-9. I think it's going to be a Boswell type of game. One touchdown. I think the defense does a lot again, even with TJ Watt out. I think that Devin Bush showed up last game. He showed up, and he showed up often. He was sideline to sideline. I saw his burst return, and it just seemed like he was reacting and playing without having to think about what to do. And when he was doing those types of when he's playing that way and playing that fast, it reflected. Joe Mixon had one big run, but if you took that run away from him, he had less than 3-yard average. I mean, he was a non-factor for the game. And it made the Cincinnati Bengals one-dimensional, which allowed the linebackers, especially Alex Highsmith, to hone in and really take control of that game. Alex Highsmith is going to need to make and have a huge year, especially in the next few 6, 7, 8 weeks while TJ Watt is gone. He's going to have to step it up. I think he did huge in this first game. All offseason I was harping out how he had less than 7 sacks, less than Chris Wormley, and that was, in my opinion, unacceptable for a starting outside linebacker in this defense, opposite side of TJ Watt, where all the attention is going over there. And in the first game, he showed up, and I couldn't be more pleased, having 3 sacks. One's a strip sack that ended up being a turnover with Cam Hayward recovering the fumble. It was a very, very good game by Alex Highsmith, and in my opinion, in the last game, Minkah Fitzpatrick, making a stake and a claim for Defensive Player of the Year. I understand it's one game, but, in all phases of what he can do, whether it was defense or special teams, tackling or intercepting the ball, he was where he needed to be. I was really impressed with him. I think the defense, as long as the offense can maintain possession of the ball, and not have the defense out there for 100 snaps or for like 44 minutes. I think this defense can do well, and it's only going to get better once TJ Watt comes back, DeMonte KZ comes back, and the Steelers are able to play that 3 safety look that I from what I understand in here was something that was going to be used often and early. I think the Steelers are going to have a dynamic, legendary defense, a championship style defense. And if the offense can catch up, look out. In my opinion, I think they need a change at the signal caller. But this is the Q&A show, guys. So let me know if you have any questions and comments. I'll be going through them. One last thing I want to let everybody know is there's a new podcast that I'm going to be a part of. It's I call it a merry-go-round podcast. It's called the Unofficial Steelers Podcast. It's going to be hosted by myself, Mark Davison from Steelers Nation Australia, and Nathan Heintz from In Hindsight. And basically what's going to happen is this past Tuesday, we had a live show that we did, and we interacted with each other and asked each other a bunch of questions and talked a little bit in the live chat. And I got a lot of positive feedback about that. So we wanted to create a show, and we didn't want to create a whole new channel or anything like that. So we decided to do the Unofficial Podcast, where it's so unofficial, it doesn't even have an official place or channel. It's going to be aired on my channel and then rotate to the next time it airs will be on Mark's and then Nathan's, and so on and so on. The podcast will air twice a week, Tuesdays and Saturdays. They'll be live, and you're going to have to follow myself, State of the Steelers, Nathan Heintz, in Hindsight, and Steelers Nation Australia, to keep track of where we're going. It's going to be called the Unofficial Steelers Podcast. And this is going to be our logo, guys. Let me know what you guys think about that in the comment section if you like it. Like I said, we're going to be rotating. I think this first one that's going to be airing out, it's going to be coming out this upcoming Tuesday on Mark's channel, Steelers Nation Australia. Please sub to those guys. That way you don't miss any of those episodes. So let's get into the live chat and see what we have here. We have Steelers fans saying that you can't wait for the game. I can't either. I'm really excited about this one. This is, the first time the Pittsburgh Steelers are going to be seeing the New England Patriots without Tom Brady. It's going to be kind of weird. It was the first time in a long time since the Steelers beat down Matt Castle. I think it was like in 10 or 11, somewhere around there. But yeah, it's going to be the first time in a long time that the Pittsburgh Steelers haven't seen Tom Brady and the New England Patriots. And I'm excited about this. I'm excited to see what Bill Belichick can do without his golden boy, so to speak. And I'm excited to see what the Steelers defense is going to do against their offense. I think this is going to be a highly contested defensive game, though. Don't cancel any appointments with cardiologists. I think you're going to have to make those routinely this year. Let's see. Sean Downey says, we've got to take advantage of the opportunities in front of us right now, as the season is only going to get tougher. I 100% agree. This is the rampart, the early part of the season that is laid out for the Steelers to get right. There are some games that are going to be, fix certain things, and they can make certain mistakes and still win them. The first game against the Cincinnati Bengals wasn't one of them, but they were able to squeak by with a win. The next 3 games, though, are games that are very winnable, and in my opinion, the Steelers should win. And so, with that being said, after that, you have Buffalo, you have the Buccaneers. It gets tough, and so the Steelers are going to definitely need to get everything that they need to get done now, so that way when those tougher teams come, or when they're traveling to those hostile destinations, the Steelers are going to have to show up in those games. And if they play or perform in the manner that they did last week, it's not going to look good. Not going to look good at all. Let's see. Sean says the AFC is a powerhouse right now, and we've got to decide now if we're going to be a part of it. Yeah, I mean, it's still early. It is very much early. However, the way the schedule is lined up and stacked, these are all AFC opponents. These are AFC opponents that, well, if you look at the New England Patriots, they may be a team that, let's just say the Steelers aren't in the driver's seat of the AFC North, but are in competition for that 7th seed. The New England Patriots might be a team that we're competing against record, and having this edge against them in the matchup, playing against them, if the Steelers are able to win, that will be huge, for wild card playoff placement. And so it's very important. All these games are, but having AFC games this early and AFC North games also, it's important. I mean, and especially the two AFC North games are on the road. One's a short week against Cleveland. Now, fortunately for the Steelers, you can take it as you will. They're not playing Deshaun Watson. I don't really think he's that dangerous of a quarterback, to be honest with you. I think he is a upgrade at what they have, but I don't think he was worth contract or anywhere near the trouble that he's put out. And so, with that being said, we're playing those two teams in a hostile area against them and on the road and in Cleveland on a short week early in the season. It's gonna, one thing that it is gonna do is gonna build a stronger team. This team's gonna be battle tested. This team's already battle tested. It feels like they could have lost that Cincinnati game like 3 times and overcame 3 of them, and so it's gonna build callous, and what doesn't kill you makes you stronger, so to speak. And the victories are good. So this team's going to be all right. They just need to get through this tough part and offensively get it to click. Let's see. Here's a question. So do you think we leave Pickett on the bench? You can get a bit of rust like Trubisky, who's been sitting for 2 years. What kind of reps Pickett getting now? Well, Pickett's getting quite a bit of reps probably in preseason with the twos. I mean, not in preseason. I'm sorry. In practice. I'm not sure he's getting any reps with the ones in practice, but he's getting some reps with the 2. He's game planning. He's doing everything, preparing as if he's the one. Now, had they made him the 3, like where Mason Rudolph is, then he would be the scout guy. He'd be pretending to be the opposition, wouldn't be learning anything about the offense, and would be studying and practicing to be the opposition. And so for him to be the number 2 quarterback was important. This is going to build him confidence and comfortability in this offense. Now, I agree. I don't like the fact that there could be, I mean, the rust aspect of it, it's still on new for him. So I don't think there would be that much rust, him coming in from college. It's going to be new. It's going to be a new game. There's nothing the college game is going to prepare for this situation. Even preseason games aren't like playing the regular season. There's no scheming or any of those things that are involved in it. And so, in my opinion, him coming in, next year or at any point this season isn't going to affect it that much. Now, with Mitch Trubisky, yeah, he's been sitting for a while. He sat last year. He wasn't a starter there for a good minute in Chicago. And I mean, I think we know who he is. His success as a quarterback came early. Since, he struggled every year after, his Pro Bowl year. And in my opinion, what that means to me is that he was found out. Somebody figured him out. It took a little bit, took a year or 2, whatever it was, but they figured him out, and he's not overcome it. He's shown to be the same quarterback, same issues. Vision down the field ain't great. Not very confident in the pocket. Runs around, doesn't look down the field when he's running, looking straight down at who's chasing him, which I get it. These are professional athletes that are coming at him, huge men. But at the same token, he is who he is. We harp on Mason Rudolph about him being who he is. He's played less than a season. This guy's had a few games. He's had a few seasons in the league. Mitch Trubisky is who he is. And, I have a good friend of mine. His name is Daniel Rocha. He goes by Big Blue on the Drunk Turkey show. He's a good guy. Go follow those guys. You'll see a familiar face. He's a diehard Chicago Bears fan. And when I talked to him about Mitch Trubisky, I asked him, hey, what do y'all think about him when he was there? Was it really a Nagy situation? Or was Mitch, not the best of quarterbacks? And he's kind of said, Mitch was all right when there was no pressure and the receivers were wide open. And I was like, well, man, I could be all right if I didn't have pressure and the receivers were wide open. This is the NFL. The receivers aren't going to be open. There's going to be pressure. And, he's like, yeah. And that's why he wasn't that great. And so with that being said, I see that. I see that in him. And, maybe it's rust. Maybe it's more so because of the rust now. Maybe once he starts to get a little bit more confident and comfortable in the offense, those things will start to become less. But the more they show up and early and as they are, I think that leash that he has, if there wasn't one before, he definitely has one now. And it's going to shrink with more performances that he has that aren't positive. There's one thing that Mike Tomlin stated in one of his press conferences was when they asked him, this was before the Cincinnati Bengals game, when they asked him, at what point did you figure out that Mr. Trubisky was going to be your starting quarterback this year? And he said, it's continual. It's continually happening. It hasn't happened yet. He's not the starting quarterback. He's a starting quarterback right now because, in Mike Tomlin's opinion, he gives the Steelers the best opportunity to win. Until he does some things in stadium that shows he's not the best quarterback that's going to give the Steelers the opportunity to win. And, Mr. Trubisky is a guy that is safe with the ball. He doesn't throw very many interceptions. Yeah, I think he's the only quarterback with over 50 pass attempts or something like that. Some crazy stat that hasn't thrown a pick six. He's safe with the ball. He's not going to lose the game, but he ain't going to win it for you. And, it's like a prevent defense. What's the prevent defense going to do? Prevent you from winning. It's not a formula for long-term success. I think it's going to win some games, yes, but it's going to come at a cost. And it's going to come at some cost bigger than others. The first game, huge. Defensive player of the year, reigning defensive player of the year, TJ Watt goes down with a shoulder, a pec injury late in the game, after he played like 70 snaps or 60 something snaps. That's not common or not needed for any of our defensive players, especially week one. They haven't played or participated in any real football up to this point. For this amount of time, I think the longest amount of time that they were on the field, or TJ Watt was a little bit more than one quarter during one particular game. To go from that to playing, 100 snaps as a defense a whole, it's not good. It's not good. Let's see. Our defense should dominate again. New England is notorious for good coverage on tight ends. Could be a breakout game for GP. Yeah, New England is notorious for good coverage on tight ends. However, the guy that they have that's covering them, Adrian Phillips, their best tight end coverage guy, he is, in my opinion, like I mentioned earlier in the podcast, what the Steelers would want to do with Damontae Kazee when he comes back. He's been hurt. He's got I believe it's like a rib injury and or core injury. And, I think that if Pat Freiermuth can get physical with him, he can really take advantage of that matchup. Oh, thank you, Sean. He said it was a great show. I anticipate he was referring to the one with me, Nathan, and Mark Davis. Let's see. Steelers fan says Najee needs to stretch. He looked tight. Yeah, he did. He looked slow. He's been dealing with a Liz Frank injury. It kind of sidelined him from the majority of training camp. He only participated in the last preseason game, and it showed. He looked slow. He looked sluggish. He didn't look confident when he was running. I think he needs to get a little bit healthier. The emergence of Jaylen Warren, not just as a runner, but as a pass blocker was huge. There were several plays last week where you can go back and he's knocking defenders on their rear, just blocking them and protecting for Mitch Trubisky and giving Mitch that extra time and those clean pockets that I was referring to earlier. He's going to get the running down. He had a fumble. He had a couple of fumbles in training camp, from what I understand, before the games, before preseason. And so they had him running around with a ball, during after the first preseason game that was apparently weighted down. It was wet, just to make sure that he doesn't fumble the ball and, would be punished if he didn't have the ball with him. So right now he might be focusing a little bit too much on not fumbling and Yeah, but once he gets comfortable and once he gets comfortable carrying the rock, I think he's going to be a surprise. I think he's going to be a good runner. I think that he's going to be able to give Najee Harris the time he needs to heal up, because he needs to heal, and this offensive line needs to figure out the running passing game. They're struggling right now when it comes to the running game. They weren't making that many holes out there, and so they need some time to gel. It's a new offensive line with some new pieces. And once they start to get things together, I think they're going to be a pretty good unit this year. I anticipate probably by the week 4 game versus the Jets, that offensive line will be a lot different and a lot better in a positive manner than what you saw in week 1, just because of the fact that they have that time to gel, build that cohesiveness, and have that in-game stadium experience under their belt as a collective unit, so to speak. So, but no, I think he needs to loosen up. Great comment. Let's see what's next. What's up, Claude Bishop? How you doing? Hey, Brian. Oh, hope everything's going well. Let's see. Oh no, I think I'm frozen. Come on. I'm not sure if anybody can see me or hear me, but I'm frozen, I believe. Hey, I have no idea what happened there. It just everything stopped for a second. I hope everybody can hear me. Let me know in the live chat. Looks like there's still 11 people in here. That was crazy. Feds are always after me. I mentioned earlier about that drunk turkey show stuff. It's a show with me and my buddies. We talk on there about some conspiracies and things of that nature. We've had some internet issues when we talk about certain conspiracies. It's a running joke, but yeah, no, that was kind of weird, but I'm glad I'm back on. Let's see what else we have out here. So Sean Downey says, do you think we'll get a better looking run game this week? I sure do hope so. I think we're going to need to. I think the defenses that the Steelers are going to face are going to be ones that are going to play tight up front with a high safety look in the back over the top. These are the defenses the Steelers have been seeing for years. Sometimes, depending on the personnel that comes in, they're going to play a little bit off and play the deep pass and let the quarterback beat you. And when you have a bigger personnel, they're going to play heavy to stop the run. And unfortunately, the Steelers' offense has been super predictable based on lineup, based on personnel that goes in there. And when it's that predictable, it makes things so much more difficult to do. There's got to be a change up. I think that's why the Pittsburgh Steelers did a few trick plays and why they worked last week against the Cincinnati Bengals. But the Steelers are going to have to consistently prove that they can attack the middle of the field and attack the edge and deep on the sideline consistently before they're going to see anything different. I just don't know about if this quarterback is the guy that could be there to do so. Let's see. Sean says that he thought he was better in Chicago in the second half against Cincinnati was atrocious. I completely agree, 100%. That second half was bad. Now I know that Mitch Trubisky gets a lot of hype for the false start play where he ended up hitting Pat Freiermuth down the middle. And there are a lot of folks are saying, that play, flashed this, that, and the third. I don't think so. A lot of people are thinking about are seeing the result of that play. It was a completed pass down the field. I get it. It worked. But I don't think that play works 7 out of 10 times. It was more, if you look at it, he's running across to his left, throws the ball while he's backpedaling off his back foot over the middle of the field with his 2 safety look. The safety coming down on Pat, fortunately for Pat and for everybody watching, he was going for the pick. Had he gone to dislodge Pat Freiermuth, he would have gotten him very good, in my opinion. Could have injured Pat. He was coming in fast, and it would have been a bang situation. I do not think that was a very good play. He had other options in front of him that would have gotten him a first down, and other options that could have gotten him maybe not as much yards from what Pat Freiermuth was able to, end up doing with that play. But that play was more on Pat being heads up, getting in front of the safety and catching it in front of him and making a play up the field than it was Mr. Trubisky throwing up a prayer behind his, across his body and across the field. I didn't like the play. I didn't like that play. In fact, in my conversation with Mark Davison and Nathan Heintz, we're trying to talk about some of his best plays, and the best plays that he had were plays that he didn't make. In my opinion, one of them was the safety that he avoided, where he was getting tackled in the end zone and he throws the ball towards Pat Freiermuth at his feet. In my opinion, that was probably one of his better throws, better decisions. He was decisive with that throw, and he got it out of his hand in a manner so that he wouldn't get a penalty. Mason Rudolph was in a similar situation this preseason, and it resulted in an intentional grounding in the end zone and for safety. And so, that was a veteran play. I thought that was a good play, but after that, it was just all downhill. I really didn't like it. A lot of folks say that I hate this narrative that they say that he did enough to win. No, he didn't. He did not do enough to win. The Steelers defense won that game. They won it in spite of Mitch Trubisky, not because of him, and he didn't do enough to win. He didn't kill the Steelers. He didn't lose the game by throwing turnovers. But, the same thing could be said if the quarterback just kneeled for the entire damn game. Excuse my language. But it was just one of I can't stand that narrative when people say he did enough to win. He didn't do enough to win. If he'd done enough to win, the Steelers would have won in regulation. It was a long snapper being injured is why the Pittsburgh Steelers didn't win that game. Or why they wouldn't have, why they ended up going into overtime. The Steelers would have lost that game had they had a long snapper. And so, no, he didn't do enough to win. It took a long snapper out and a Steelers defense to stop their offense multiple times, and come up with 5 turnovers. That's what won the game. Yep, let's see. Steelers Freak says Steelers were last week with yards per attempt, lower than Dallas with 3 points. Yeah, that was bad. Brian Brown goes, that pass to Muth almost got picked. Yeah, Muth ran up in front of him, and it would have been like, and I guess, some people say it's a tight window throw, or, Muth did what he was supposed to do by getting in front of them. That was a prayer. Off his back foot, running, backpedaling, that was a prayer. And then prayer answered for everybody. Let's see. Sean says that particular play was stressful because Trubisky actually threw more accurately pass, in my opinion. Oh, it was successful. I'm sorry. That particular play was successful because Trubisky actually threw a more accurate pass, in my opinion. It was a broken play. He threw it up in the middle. Pat was a little bit forward to, the center of the field. He had to bolt it to catch up to it. I won't take anything away from it. It wasn't, I guess you can say it was an accurate play. And it was also in a place where Muth could catch it and do something with it. I just didn't like the fundamentals behind it. I didn't like his footwork. I didn't like his positioning. I didn't like the decision, especially with what the defense was showing. It was bad. It was bad. And so Steelers Freak says, I have thought this for several years. If we know novices can see the problem, these guys getting the big bucks with potential to lose, the great job can't fix means it's his ability. True. Sean goes, I thought he'd go in to get grounding on that play because the ball didn't make it back to the line of scrimmage, even though Freiermuth was in the vicinity. No, as long as there's somebody either in the vicinity, the line of scrimmage is if they're outside of the tackle box, they have to pass the line of scrimmage. But the key is as long as somebody's in the vicinity, that is good and it's okay. The second rule is if there's nobody in the vicinity, you have to be outside the tackle box and the ball has to be past the line of scrimmage. Let's see. Brian goes, do you think the atrocious offense is all because Matt Canada doesn't know what he's doing? The Steelers are still going backward in the red zone. That's a good question. I think that with Matt Canada, there's a lot to be not appreciative here. He's doing a lot. There's a lot. I don't really like for instance, I wasn't a big fan of, the first 3 plays being passing and going 3 and out, possessing the ball for less than a minute and punting the ball. I didn't like that. I thought that was ugly. That was dumb in my opinion. I'll say it straight up. It was dumb. I understand you got to take what the defense is giving you, but those are scripted plays. So they went in there with the script being 3 passing plays. I didn't like that. Yeah, the red zone offense is atrocious, and it goes back to predictability. The touchdown was a play action pass. The lineup, the personnel, everything said it was going to be a run, and they did a little trickery and then did a dump off to the side where to Najee Harris. The rest of the stuff is just so obvious what the Steelers are going to do and where they're going to go that the defenses are keying in on it, in my opinion. Now, Matt Canada can say, and it sucks because it's hard to tell if it's him or not. And in his defense, because this really isn't his quarterback. I mean, but then again, it kind of is because the Steelers identified him early in free agency as a guy that could be a replacement for Ben Roethlisberger. So in a way, he is his guy. I'm not liking what I'm seeing. I think that Matt Canada has a certain way of coaching and he needs a certain personnel to do so for it to be successful. And basically what I'm seeing in that situation is when he's given players that don't fit what he's what he's trying to do, he struggles. And the true test is probably going to be once Kenny Pickett gets on the field. I don't think Matt Canada is going to be on any hot seat or anything until that happens, until Kenny Pickett's on the field and then the offense continues to struggle and continue to go backwards. At that point, there's no excuse. There's nothing saying, hey, you're not doing correctly. But I think Matt Canada has a lot to blame. He has a lot to blame in this, and he has – I think he didn't do well last year with Ben Roethlisberger. I didn't think that the play calls were correct in a lot of situations. They were very, very predictable. I mean, they've been predictable for a while since Randy Fichtner. And so I think that Matt Canada brings a little bit more motion. But outside of that, it's been frustrating to watch this offense not move outside of tempo and no huddle. That's been the MO for the Pittsburgh Steelers offense for a while now. And in my opinion, that's because they're locking in a certain look or a certain personnel that they like. And, the tempo and whatnot limits the exotic blitzes or looks that the defense can give you. And so it works for a little bit, but it's not sustainable in my opinion. Here we go. Show says, what up? What's going on, Devin? Hope you're having a great time. He's out there in Pittsburgh, PA for the home opener. That's going to be a good game, man. Been looking forward to your analysis on what you think from seeing or being in stadium and seeing it, from a different perspective than a TV view only. No problem, Sean. No problem. CS Freak says that D has a florist flavor and it was time. The side of the ball is starting to play like it's designed to play against high scoring 2022 O's. I agree. I agree. Um, Brian Flores, and see, that's one of the other things too that is a favorable matchup in this game here is going to be the coaching. You know, yes, Brian Belichick is probably one of the best coaches ever be in the NFL. However, he doesn't really have an offensive coordinator. He's using a defensive coordinator and Patricia as his offensive coordinator. And we have Brian Flores, who was once a member of the New England Patriots and also of the Miami Dolphins as a coach. And in my opinion, has some probably a better chance at understanding what the New England Patriots offense is trying to do than anybody out there. I really like this matchup as far as the coaching goes in that aspect. I think the Steelers defense is going to make the New England Patriots offense a living hell, to be honest with you. You know, Mac Jones had been dealing with back spasms and a back injury. And I think he's going to be feeling his back a lot in this game. I think the pressure is going to be up. How's it going, Mr. Hammer? Brian says, while the jet sweeps worked against the Bengals, it seems to me that the play is stuffed as much as it works. I agree. It sets up the run as well. So if you do a lot of the jet sweeps, when you do the jet sweep across and you don't hand it off, it makes the middle linebackers stay honest because there's a possibility that you can hand it off to the receiver, thus making them, hesitant a little bit, and that'll give an advantage to the running back. But you have to fake it every now and then. In the Cincinnati Bengals game, it seemed like every time they were putting somebody in motion to do a jet sweep, that was handed off to them. It could be preparing for this game to do a couple of fakes, and it would be smart of the Pittsburgh Steelers to do so. Mr. Hammer says, I'm out on Canada. Yeah, I was actually having a conversation with a couple of other Steeler guys about this, and I've said it. I was like, man, this recent Steelers offense makes me wish that Todd Haley would come back. Back then, at least the Steelers offense looked competent and they were moving down the field and able to be somewhat successful. Here in most recent years, it's just been so stagnant, so uninspiring and unmotivating. And, I get it. Style points don't matter and this, that, and the third. But, man, it's been rough to watch the Steelers offense for the last few years. Let's see. Chicken or the egg, they need to pass to open up the run, or they need the run to open up the pass. Either way, they must do something. They need to get Pickens involved before he gets two'd. I agree, man. I think that George Pickens definitely needs to be more involved. The pass down the field that Mitch threw out of bounds, and that was a touchdown. That was a walk-in touchdown if he makes that pass accurately and throws it down the field correctly. Unfortunately, he doesn't. Throws it about 5-6 yards out of bounds in a place where nobody can catch it. I agree. He's a threat, and the Steelers need to use him. I think these receivers should be getting this quarterback with these receivers should have had more than 194 yards passing in 5 quarters of football. I get it. You don't want to rush the rookie, but there are certain times where, like, hey, if he gives you the best chance to win, why not put the best player out there? In my opinion. Seal Freak says, Matt can't run, expect more blitzes, make up for no Watt. Edmonds will play close to the line, help the new edge with the run D. I agree 100%. I expect a lot of blitzes. I expect a lot of movement. I expect a lot of corner blitzes too. Mollett is going to have a huge game. He's going to be introduced to Mac Jones early and often, in my opinion. Early and often. Brian goes, it's a weird year this year. The defense is as good as the offense is bad. That's so true. That is so true. But you know what? Sometimes you just need one player. In 2003, the Pittsburgh Steelers defense was pretty good. They were on the way up. They just drafted Palomalu, he didn't really play much that year, but he was on his way up. The next year they draft a quarterback and play him and go to the championship. I mean, it can be that easy, that turnaround that quick, and I think this team has a lot of pieces around. I think they have some strong pieces on the receivers. They have one of the best running backs in the game, one of the best tight ends in the game. The offensive line needs to come together a little bit better, but they gave Mitch some clean pockets. The defense is championship ready. It could be just one piece missing, guys. Just one piece missing, and I don't think he's that far missing. Might be just sitting on the bench there. Let's just see. Well, I'll take a few more, and then I'll announce the details for that giveaway. Let's see. Hammer goes, imagine if we had the Chiefs or 9 years OC, the Niners OC. Yeah, I think that, a lot of concern or comments about Matt Canada's offense is it's predictable, it's simplistic, not very complex, and easy to dissect for a defense. And I see those things right now. I see those things. They might work in college, but it looks like it's struggling in the NFL. It definitely does. Sia Freak says, let me be Liz Frank. That's funny. If Harris isn't close to 100, put Warren play. That dude will cough up a kidney to get yards. Man, I agree 100%. Najee's not a speed back. He's not a fast guy. He doesn't have breakaway speed. And with this type of injury, slowing him down more than what he's already kind of limited in, it makes it for a really bad look it's bad play on the field. It really is. His rushing yards per attempt is yards. It's really low. It's poor. And in my opinion, and an opinion of a lot of people is that I've been listening to, I think it was Jim Wexell out of the Steel City Insider that said that, and I agree with him, that Najee Harris is overtrained. He came in looking like a superhero. Everybody was talking about how much bigger and bulkier and stronger and faster he was, and had a transformation in such a short period of time. Now he's got the Liz Frank. It just kind of seems like it might be overtraining, and he just needs a little bit of rest, rehab. And it's a long season. It's a 17-game season. He was going to have his opportunity to get his touches, in my opinion. Let's see. We'll go and skip through a couple of these real quick. Viper, I haven't seen you in here. How's it going? Team stack the box. They know the Steelers aren't going deep. Yeah, that's true. That's kind of what I was saying earlier. They're stacked the box, but they do also do a cover high look on the two, because what the Steelers do when they throw the ball deep is they throw that ball deep at the snap. It's not something that's developed. It's a hike throw, and that's what they've been doing for a while. It's not something that they allow the play to develop and then find somebody coming open down the field. It's always decided at the snap or just before the snap. Let's see. Sean, I think there's going to be a lot of people with you. Kenny. Yeah. So that being said, guys, we're getting kind of late on this one. I'm going to go over the contest. We're giving away 2 Steelers tickets, game tickets. These are for the Steelers versus Las Vegas Raiders game on Christmas Eve. We're giving them away on October 30th at the post-game show of the Eagles versus Steelers post-game. Giving some time for people to subscribe and get into the contest, and also wanted to give people enough time for whoever does win these tickets to make arrangements to make it to the game. I think these would be an amazing Christmas present for yourself or a loved one. And all you have to do to be entered to the contest is to be a subscriber. Now, the week of the 30th, what I'm going to be doing is I'll be putting up a video, and it'll be going into the community tab. It'll be a link to that video in the community tab. It's not going to be listed. It's going to be an unlisted video. And so the only way you're going to see it is if you're a subscriber, and you'll see the link. And I'll be talking about it that week as well. It's not going to be that big of a surprise. I'll be announcing it. I want as many people as possible to be involved in it. And so this link will have a code word. You go in there, you'll type in your code word, And then on the day of the post game, at 100% random. So I use a program called StreamYard to put out my content. And so there's a random selector tool that StreamYard uses. And so what ends up happening is that code word that you put into that unlisted link video in the community tab, it's going to select one person at random that commented that code word. And then I'll be announcing, and it'll be live, and I'll be sharing my screen, and we'll be finding out together who the winner is. You'll have to email me afterwards at stateofthesteelers@gmail.com to figure out the confirmation portion of that. Once we confirm you are who you are, then we'll transfer the tickets to you and wish you the best on your journey to Pittsburgh. I recommend going the day before. On the 23rd, the Steelers will be having a celebration called the Immaculate Celebration for the 50th anniversary of the Immaculate Reception. They're at the location of the Immaculate Reception outside of Acrisure Stadium. And so it's going to be an amazing time. It's going to be a little cold, so make sure you guys bring your hand warmers and your thermals, because it'll be chilly in Acrisure, that's for sure. That's a lot. That kind of rhymed. That was pretty cool. But yeah, good luck. All you have to do is be a subscriber. You get one entry in. You can go in there and type in the code word 1,000 times. It's only going to, the StreamYard tool only reflects one entry. And so the way you can enter a couple of times, so to speak, is if you have family or friends and family that want to go, have them subscribe and enter as well. So that's all I got for you guys today. Good luck. Stay posted. Again, we're going to start on Tuesday on Mark Davison's channel, Steelers Nation Australia, the unofficial Steelers podcast. And then it'll be merry-go-round. It'll go to Nathan's In Hindsight, and then back to mine, State of the Steelers. You want to be subbed to all three channels so you don't miss an episode. With that being said, guys, thank you to everybody in the live chat. Good luck on the contest, and go Steelers. Here we go.